Welcome back to the Georgia Show. I'm still on the road. I'm still at the Lady of Our Well Convent above Beirut, Lebanon, up in the mountains. Beautiful place. We are doing some fantastic reporting here, and we're putting out a lot of it on different views. You can see it on cdm.press, a lot of articles, videos. We're putting it on our shows. So this is, I think, one of CDM's priorities over the next year is to highlight the plight of Christians around the world. And Lebanon, which I didn't know the history here, it's been attacked as a country. For that reason, it was the only strong Christian country in the Middle East, and it's under the attack and attempting to be destroyed. So we'll discuss that and what's going on here. We're going to talk Georgia, and Bill has a lot of stuff that he's put together. Again, pattern recognition. That's his forte. What do you got to talk about today, Bill?
Well, we're going to cover some stuff at the national level. There continues to be more disclosures that are roping in more bad actors that have been apparently for a number of years trying to undercut Trump and undo his presidency, both the previous one and perhaps the current one. And we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about some things happening here in Georgia that that folks need to be aware of, and the fight that we see. We're going to talk about some amazing, I'll call it disclosure, that's come from Patrick Byrne with regard to elections, not just ours, but across the country and beyond. And lastly, we'll talk about a call by President Trump to free a prisoner, Tina Peters, and what's happening and has happened in past months because of her imprisonment. Plenty to cover. And then I know you've got some great stuff to share from your findings there in Beirut.
Yes, we'll get to that and see how much time we have. But we need your support, guys. This is expensive. We need to grow the business. We need to grow our revenue stream. One way you can do that is by our no ad subscriptions. It's at the top right corner of every CDM website, Georgia Record or cdm.press. Subscribe with no ads. And you click on it, and you will be taken to a page where you sign up, you get a subscription, you log in, and then you can visit all of our reporting. We go from the Balkans to Israel, to the Middle East, to Eastern Europe, to Russia, to Florida, Georgia, New York, Connecticut, Montana, Colorado, Maryland, military, Hispanic, at CDM Espanol. We've got a lot, and you can get all of that with no ads popping up. So that's what this is for, and it gives us kind of a revenue base that we can count on to continue our great reporting. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. I find the best way is to pay the $100, get it out of the way, and you do that once a year, and you get access to all of that content, and you're supporting free media. So that's really, really important to us. And if you don't want to do that, you can go to the top of any of our sites and click on the Support Us button, and you can make a donation that way as well. But we do need some support here. We've had some unforeseen security costs that we have to pay for, bodyguards and stuff like that, going to certain places. We've been in the Shia section of Beirut. We've been up in the mountains. We've hit a lot of areas and gone. I spent yesterday with some Christians from Syria that were in hiding in Lebanon, and fascinating. So we'll get to some of that later. But Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, sounds good. So in past weeks, we have talked about the disclosures that have roped in people like Comey and Brennan and others, and continue to do so. Well, what came this week is a raid on John Bolton's home that many people were saying, oh, well, this is because he brought out his book and he's claiming to have, disclosed certain classified information in that. That may be in part correct, but there may be more to this. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. One of the things that we need to recall is that Bolton was one of those, like many, who early on was happy to throw Trump under the bus and claim that he should be investigated, and that when the Mar-a-Lago raid happened, it should have been expected. Let's hear some of his comments from that time frame.
I don't think he cared about the classification system. I don't think he appreciated the sensitivity of this information, and he didn't appreciate the sensitivity of how it was often acquired, the so-called sources and methods. So this had been briefed to him before I arrived. It was repeated frequently. I think it simply had no impact on him whatever.
There's a couple of different ways that people think about this, and people who are not friendly to the president who think about what's happened here. And one of them is, Donald Trump, master thief, criminal, running some kind of elaborate conspiracy to bring things out of the White House and keep them secret for potentially for political or financial gain. There are other people who his attitude is Trump is chaotic. He's careless. He's not that smart. He took these things almost by mistake, and now he's basically stamping his feet and saying they're mine. I don't want to give them up.
So you can tell that the tone here is very anti-Trump. They were trying to come up with reasons why Trump should be blamed for having anything in his possession at Mar-a-Lago. They completely overlooked the fact that the president has it within his power to declassify and maintain anything. He can, on a whim, declassify documents or any material. They didn't want to talk about that. They wanted to throw him under the bus. So isn't it interesting and perhaps coming full circle that Bolton himself should now be investigated and, in fact, raided? And one of the things that people are pointing out are the odd differences or similarities, I should say, between what happened with Bolton and what happened, for example, with one of the show's friends, I will call him Roger Stone, and his example. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's show a video that occurred after the raid was in progress and Bolton showed back up at his home.
Just a second, but here's live pictures of what we believe is John Bolton returning home. We had a picture of this SUV leaving his office a short time ago, and now it looks like it's made its way with about 30-minute trip to his home. And there's the ambassador coming up, briefcase in hand, waving to the assembled media. And going inside the front door of the home, we will see, it doesn't look like it at this point, if he decides to come out and talk. I mean, John Bolton does talk to the media an awful lot, but he has chosen to remain silent at this point. Nicole Parker is with us, and Nicole, it looks as though this investigation, at least the search of Bolton's home and his office, has wrapped up. What do you expect might be in the boxes that came out at the hands of FBI agents, and where does this go next?
So all of that would be speculation, obviously. Here's some comments that we thought were very interesting and timely. Dan Bongino came out and said public corruption will not be tolerated, and Kash Patel said no one is above the law, FBI agents on mission. So we continue to keep eyes on this. There's also some very interesting comments coming out of Bannon's War Room, and then we're going to show a final piece from Fox News that may give a hint to what else might have driven this.
Report on all of this that I haven't even posted on Twitter yet came in just as I was coming in to get ready for the hit here. So this is what I'm getting. This is going to be a War Room exclusive here from Human Events. That CIA director John Ratcliffe provided Kash Patel access to U.S. intelligence that served as the basis for the warrant to raid Bolton's house. So this is basically what we were thinking about, and this is an individual familiar is telling me this. They're saying Bolton disingenuously attacked Trump for mishandling classified information. It will go down as one of the most audacious and ironic acts of malice in political history. Bolton should have been throwing stones in his now raided glass house. And this was something, I think, Steve, you and I talked about it when John Bolton's book came out, that he was known for these yellow legal pads, that he would take notes during every single meeting that was going on when he was the national security advisor. And there were a lot of questions as to what exactly was the handling of those notes. Did those yellow legal pads make it home to him? And because there was a lot of information that was in there that also ended up in his book, which was publicized, and by the way, part of which was leaked to the New York Times. Even went back to my own reporting on this. Part of which was leaked to the New York Times before it even came out in publication. So there's a lot of questions about who leaked it in the first place. Was it leaked during that period where they're supposed to be scrubbing it for classified? And these yellow legal pads, what information did he take? Because classified information, here's a great example. So even if you don't have documents, if the information that you have written down on your documents is classified and you take your document home, that's still taking classified information out of a classified area. That's still taking it out of the SCIF. So if you're in a position like the Oval, if you're in the Situation Room, et cetera, you can't just take that home. And in fact, the information in your mind is still also classified. That's why you have a lifetime NDA. That's just the nature of classified information. So I know there's a lot of people who focus on documents. I'm certain I'm sure there's going to be documents that we're talking about here, but this is very clear. It's information that is classified, not a piece of paper.
So that's a very, very important point. There's lots of cases where someone might end up with classified information, but if it's the president, he's allowed, as part of his executive powers, to turn that classified information into non-classified. I think what we're going to find is that there may have been other drivers behind this. And you'll recall that during the Biden presidency, there was a report, and I believe it was ended up being confirmed, that certain classified documents that they thought might have been in his garage next to his Corvette were in fact stored, I think, in a Chinese restaurant or a Chinese building somewhere in Chinatown, completely inappropriately. And we'll see what plays out there in terms of who had what classified information. Certainly Bolton could not have unclassified anything and taken it on his own. And so this doesn't look good for Mr. Bolton at the moment. We said that there might be other drivers behind here, and Fox News came out with something that we think might have a hint here. Let's listen to what this report said.
What do you do with classified documents, or about classified intelligence that Bolton printed in his book? Trump Justice Insider Mike Davis says Democrats, rhinos, and reporters who think this raid on John Bolton is about his book will be very embarrassed when the search warrant becomes public. Primetime's hearing Bolton was making a lot of money from overseas and may have been trafficking in intelligence. That wouldn't be putting America first. Constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley, who we just heard from, says Bolton could be looking at up to 20 years in prison. So Bolton should take his own advice and take a big, beautiful, deep breath.
I think it's important that everybody take a deep breath here. This is a very serious matter, and it would be better if
Waters always comes up with the good quotes. Take a deep breath.
Yeah, my what I've read, and maybe you're going to talk about it, but that intelligence information was possibly going to a third country.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes, and most interestingly, if he was receiving money for it, where was that money coming from? Now that we know that certain U.S. funds were traveling through other foreign countries and maybe coming back, was that possibly U.S. money coming back to pay Mr. Bolton? We don't know. We're not speculating, but it is fascinating to watch.
It's going to be interesting to watch this play. I hope, I'm sorry to interrupt, but interesting to watch it play up, right? As they go after the Bolton, then it goes to the next level, then the next level. We'll see, because we're infiltrated and we have to get rid of that infiltration.
That's right. And isn't it interesting that so many of the players in so many different questionable events in recent 30-year history seem to have common names attached to them? Again, we keep talking about pattern recognition. Why do we see these same names again and again and again? Here's some interesting comparison between what's happened to Bolton and what happened to Roger Stone. Just one key thing, when Roger Stone was walked out of his house in, I think, the middle of the night, somehow network news had been alerted and were on the scene and able to tape things as they occurred. That didn't happen in this case. This was a true FBI operation, apparently, and that didn't occur. So we're seeing differences between what's being done here, which feels more like a real investigation, and what has been done in the past, which seemed more like a snipe hunt, a hunt to make people criticized and scorned and so forth.
One of the most enjoyable times I had, Bill, was at Boy Scout camp with my boys, snipe hunting, by the way.
There you go. You gotta be very quiet to sneak up on them too, don't
that's
you?
true. That's
be
true.
very quiet. So you brought up a very important point, which is, okay, so now we've seen Bolton begin an investigation. Who's next? And so being the infrequent better that I am, I will put some money on that Mr. Lindsey Graham is coming up in some of this before too long. Here's an example where he was quoting that he was 1,000% confident that Russia meddled in the 2016 U.S. election. And recall what we've seen come out, that all of that made up story was meant to undercut Trump and yet not expose the real bad guys. And so he points the finger at Russia, but specifically not Ukraine. So I wouldn't be, he may not be next, but I'd be willing to bet that he is somewhere in this mix before we get done. You watch.
Well, we've reported on that note for almost 10 years now. The original reporting that Ukraine was meddling in our election in 2016, I was writing for the Washington Times at that time. And you remember Paul Manafort, when he was kicked off the Trump campaign as the campaign manager. I had just met with NABU, the Ukrainian National Anti-Corruption Bureau. I called them. I said, Svetlana, what's with this New York Times article? She's like, oh, they just pulled that off the internet somewhere. So I knew then, and you can find the article at the Washington Times, they were involved. And then Sitnik, who runs NABU, came out later and was taped saying, yeah, I was working with Hillary Clinton against Trump. This has been going on a long time. I hope it all comes out.
It has. We're going to see something else that's been going on a long time in just a few minutes as well. So this continues to be much more than troubling. So the other thing that happened this week is there was a very interesting post by Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, on Truth Social that came out early week. And he called for freeing Tina Peters. Now, for those who don't recall, Tina Peters was between 2019 and 2023 a county clerk in Mesa County, Arizona. She became aware after the 2020 election that something did not look right or didn't feel right. Then she learned that Dominion, or whoever the machine vendor was going to come in and make certain changes to the machines. And she became concerned that data might be lost in the midst of those changes, and so contracted with an outside party to make a backup, essentially, to make sure that data was not lost. She was watching out, as her oath commands her to do, watching out for the rights of the people in Arizona. Subsequent to that, once other people in authority learned that she had made a backup, and indeed certain things appeared to be no longer on the systems, following this update, they began to attempt to show her to be in some way having committed some sort of crimes in order to essentially try to do her job. Now, keep in mind, this is a senior lady. She's very smart. She's well accomplished. She's a Gold Star mom. She lost her son in conflict. And she was apparently trying to do what she thought was right. So very interesting. Trump calls for her to be released. He talks about the crooked Colorado politicians, including the big mail-in ballots supporting the governor of the state. And he says, let Tina Peters out right now. She did nothing wrong except catching the Democrats cheat in the election. She's an old woman, very sick. If she's not released, I'm going to take harsh measures. What he meant by that, we don't yet know. But my comments earlier in the week were, Trump is rare to make a promise that he does not fulfill. So I'm not sure what his plans are here, but I suspect and hope and we pray that Tina Peters, in fact, will be released very, very soon and exonerated of these outlandish charges.
So we have a comment here. I think you misspoke. Kurt says not Arizona, Colorado.
Pardon me. I did. Thank you. Thank you, Kurt. It's Colorado. You're absolutely right. Mesa County, Colorado. Okay, so Tina Peters herself and those supporting her have attempted in the past years to make information available to show what she went through, both before and during her court proceedings. There's a tape that I'd like to play that makes sure people understand what this poor woman has gone through and why you might be able to relate to Trump's call for her release. Let's take a look at this for just a moment.
My name is Tina Peters. According to the media, I'm a Trump-supporting election fraud conspiracy theorist, guilty of perpetuating the big lie.
And upon examining those records, there are log files that deal with adjudication. Those are gone.
It's my impression distinctly that you never took your job of clerking particularly seriously.
They're all gone? All of them?
Yes. They would have been gone if I hadn't have done a backup.
I was elected by the people of Mesa County. When I told my son that I was thinking of running for office, I had no idea at that time what that would mean.
You abused your position.
You're hurting me!
You're as defiant as a defendant as this court has ever seen.
These people are being selected, not elected.
I'm convinced you would do it all over again if you could.
And when the person's vote isn't being honored,
Then it's all just an illusion.
First and foremost, I think it is extremely concerning that an elections official from the state of Colorado is actively working to undermine confidence and spread disinformation about our award-winning voting system.
I used to back the Blues, and I always thought the sheriff's departments throughout the country were the best and everybody else were crap. Well, what they did to Tina Peters today was outrageous. When did they become a communist?
You are no hero, and you're a charlatan.
The evil these criminals have done to me and my country grieves me so. The upcoming midterm elections are always on my mind. We have to save Colorado as well as our elections. They thought by falsely accusing me and throwing me in jail and prison would finally silence me.
I raised a Navy SEAL. I'm a Gold Star mom. Lost him 4 years ago. I love this country. I believe this is our last chance to say that something has to change.
And prison is for those folks where we send people who are a danger to all of us.
What if it costs you your life?
Then I'll be with my son.
Where's my night to Daddy?
A remarkable lady.
Yep, for sure.
And we hope and pray that this will come to an end for her very soon. All right. Did you want to take one break before we go to this next story?
Let's. I want to talk about two things, and then I'll run a couple ads. One is mypillow.com. Go there, get your Christmas presents now, get them out of the way. Great stuff there. High quality slippers, bedding, towels, clothing, dog products, all kind of stuff. Just check it out. Go to mypillow.com. Use promo code CDM. And the wellness company has been extremely good to CDM. Make sure you protect your family. We don't know what they're going to throw our way. We're winning in a lot of ways. They're going to try to shut us down. Make sure you can protect your family with some of the emergency medical kits. If they've been harmed already by the vaccines, you can use some of the Spike Support Program. Spend some time on their website. And I'm just going to run a couple ads here.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, MyPillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, a family-owned and operated investment advisory practice. I'm a certified portfolio manager, and my job is to help you make better decisions with your money. One of the things we try to avoid is investing in companies that push the woke agenda. If you're invested with one of the big firms out there, there's a pretty good chance that you're feeding the beast that hates your values. Our company is 100% conservative, and we'd love to have an opportunity to work with you. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big, proud American Eagle logo.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
Back to you, Bill.
All right. We have one more national story, and then we've got a couple things here going on here in Georgia. So this week, in response to what we expected to come from Patrick Byrne, we had heard through the grapevine that he would have more disclosures coming out soon. Well, sure enough, this week in conversation with Emerald Robinson, he talked about the role of operations in Serbia with regard to our and other elections going back some period of time. Let's listen to this for a moment.
Even the government
Please
hasn't
do.
figured out.
I always love when you drop nuggets.
Yeah, it's all really has always been. The government does literally not know this yet because it didn't ask the right questions. But I'm just tired of waiting. Flynn told me, no longer wait. You give the government something, give them 2 or 3 days, and then you go public with it. This was all always out of Serbia. Even the original hacking of Venezuelans' own elections, everything was architected. So there's an office in Belgrade, Serbia, with Huawei machines that are actually running the computer, the deepest rig of all, the rig that comes from overseas, not the stuff we all know about, getting dead people to vote and getting, not all that on the ground stuff that we beat by tightening up all the enforcement in every county in America and all that stuff we're hearing about. But the nuke they always had was there's an office in Serbia that comes into the back of the machines and changes results if they still need to change them after they did all the ground cheating they need to. That's been like this, it turns out, from the beginning in Venezuela. It's always been architected. Smartmatic was always architected around an office in Belgrade, Serbia, to be able to come in and do this. And then as other companies as other brands came on the market, it's all Smartmatic junk inside, whether it's Hart or Dominion or ES&S. As that's on the market, that Belgrade, those are just different hood ornaments on the same machines. And so the Belgrade, Serbia office is not some recent invention. It's been architected into the Venezuela since the 04 referendum. It's been architected in from the beginning. And the United States government doesn't even know that because they're so slow in coming up to speed.
Okay, so we heard a couple things there. Let me just reinforce the key points. One is there has been an operation in Serbia that allows use of a backdoor into many of the systems, the voting systems that we use, without regard to brand. And he mentioned Hart, he mentioned DS&S, and he mentioned Dominion. This will be specifically interesting to the folks here in Georgia who are and have been working hard on election integrity for now 5 years. This has been going on a long time, and it is not one of the pieces that we didn't get to in this particular excerpt was that this goes into many countries, not just the U.S. But he also said this has been going on since the very beginning in Venezuela back in 2004, 21 years ago. And also that it is used in, I believe, up to 76 countries where these machines are used. So important for folks to understand. I know they've been working hard. We've seen and covered much of the work that's been done here in Georgia. He acknowledges that work has been important. We also have to acknowledge that if he's right, and he seems to have the receipts, there's more with regard to Flynn being involved in other things. If he's right and reporting the right stuff, that this has always been another layer to this that was beyond our scope to address here just in Georgia. So we'll continue to watch this carefully in the coming days as more comes out. All right. Moving to Georgia itself, one of the biggest stories that folks have been asking about and keeping their eyes on is the continued struggles in Fulton County. The Republican Party nominated 2 people to sit on the Fulton County Election Board, and just as they had done a couple of years ago, they have been resistant to seating those 2 people nominated by the Republican Party. Ultimately, the case has gone to court. The court ordered the county to seat these individuals. The county still had resisted, even in advance of a court order. The folks supporting the nominees asked for the court to find contempt. And now what's happened let's talk about this for just a moment. They came back, they did take a vote, and several people left the room such that there could not be a confirming vote. They took, a couple people out of play, so that out of the total number of commissioners, they did not have enough to actually get a winning vote. And so the still was stretched out by gamesmanship, we'll call it. Well, it appears now that Josh McCoon and, to some extent, very frankly, Mr. Whatley, the past RNC chairman, neither of whom have addressed the documented complaints surrounding the Georgia State GOP convention held back in June. But they seem real interested in trying to show that they're somehow driving this event and need in Fulton County. And so they're being called out by this person on Twitter, What Matters in Georgia. And they're being called out for trying to make it look like they're leading this effort in Fulton County, yet they're leaving members of the Frost family, some of whom are under investigation by the SEC and the FBI and Secretary of State of Georgia for a Ponzi scheme, leaving some of these people still in leadership positions in the GOP. I know that's a bit of an adjunct, but again, this is about diversion. And so here, Michael Whatley talks about what a great job Josh McCoon is doing to drive this forward and get a resolution. It appears that other people are being the ones to really drive this and get a resolution. And that resolution seems to be in the offing. So the Court of Appeals now has ordered an emergency hearing on August 27th at 10 a.m. to bring this to a head. It appears now that the judge involved has had enough of Fulton County pretending that they don't need to seat these nominees. Previous hearings confirmed that the word shall be seated means shall. They don't have the ability to say, no, we don't really want to do this. And so we hope and trust that this will come to a head, a big one, on August 27th, which is, I believe, 3 days from now. And at 10 a.m. We encourage folks, if they can, to attend. And if you look at the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com, tomorrow we will publish the details as to where this will be. We encourage lots of people to be there and show support where they can for the folks, Jason Frazier and Julie Adams, who need to be, Julie in the case of being reseated, Jason Frazier to be seated as members of the Fulton County Election Board after much struggles.
Yeah, that's a big one, Bill.
It is. And this has been going on. It's a great example of these people in power thinking that they can go other than by the law. And in this case, we hope that the law will prevail and send a message. And very frankly, there's the possibility that these people might be, some of them might be called into, contempt, and we don't know what's going to happen to them after that. But in any case, the main thing to focus on is getting these people onto the Board of Elections and helping get Fulton move back toward credible, complete, and accurate and confirmable elections as we go forward. All right, next story, and that will this will be an interesting one. International Paper has had a set of plants down in and near Savannah for going back nearly 88 years, where they put together paper and other paper and wood-based products. They're due to close. And the timing is very interesting. We have Buddy Carter running for Senate out of the 1st District. This is part of the 1st District. And we wonder what effect this is going to have on Mr. Carter. Many people stepped up, and when this was announced this week, everybody had kind words and sorrowful words for what's happening. But this is going to affect 1,100 employees. Now, keep in mind that Governor Kemp, Burt Jones, John Burns, and others have always talked about in recent years about Georgia being the best place for business, the #1 state for business in the country. If that's true, why would International Paper suddenly decide that they're going to close these plants and invest elsewhere? As a matter of fact, part of their investment appears to be going to Alabama. Why is that happening? Well, we don't know. But this will have in some cases, people are calling it a devastating effect on the economy down in the Savannah area and in the 1st District. This is in Brunswick, the Brunswick area in Georgia. What effect is this going to have? This is a big plant. What happens to the plant when they close it? Again, don't know. I mean, that's a big area that's being used now. You could tell it if folks have driven to Savannah recently. You could tell you were getting near the plant from a long way away because of the unpleasant smell sometimes. Lots of conciliatory words from elected officials about this. Gosh, we're going to do everything we can to help, and the Department of the Development Authorities and the Chamber of Commerce and all these guys are going to try to help. Well, what are they going to do? We don't know, but it is going to be a big challenge, and it cannot be overlooked that somebody dropped the ball, we think, on what was happening here, that this would come so quickly and be such a devastating challenge for this area. It's a shame, and we hope and pray for the families that are going to be impacted or are being impacted. This is going to happen very quickly. They expect that it will be closed during September, and I think they're talking about literally locking the chain link fences by October. So we will have folks out of work in the 1st District. Where's this?
That's my hometown, man. That's a shame. Obviously it's because it's not a Chinese or foreign company that they're getting paid to keep open.
Well, isn't it interesting that too? We don't know this, but isn't it interesting that the folks that like Hyundai, who were found to be employing illegal residents, apparently, based on ICE showing up and people are running for the fence line several months ago. We wonder what impact these non-documented citizens, if you will, or non-citizens, are having on business in Georgia. So again, we're going to keep an eyeball on this, and we hope that there will be a reasonable resolution for these families, and we'll keep our eyeballs on it. What it does to Buddy Carter and his run for Senate, well, he was probably a dark horse in the Senate race anyway, and so this probably won't help. No, we will see what happens next.
Wow.
All right,
Amazing.
and for the moment, that is it. So I'm excited to hear about your visit in your discussions out there.
I'm gonna run a couple ads, and then we'll be right back into what's going on with Christianity in Beirut. So stand by.
Right.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you.
But then they're sitting eating their dog food, and the family sits down and gets lasagna, and they're like, what is that? And they have this sense like, actually, maybe what I'm eating is shit. Maybe they're getting the good stuff, but you don't really know. And that's why we don't feed dogs to the table, because the second you do, they're done. They're like, really? Beef eyes? I don't think so. I'm not eating that shit anymore, because they know better. And that's what Zin is. Like, the second you have it, you're like, what? Are you serious? I put that shit in my mouth. And you're mad, obviously, at the people who did it to you, but also at yourself for, like, settling for that, for settling. Because we're not actually dogs. No, we're not dogs. And, like, why would I be eating beef anus when I can eat lasagna?
Back to you, Bill. Well, actually, it's my turn now.
It is your turn.
So,
Plus, I can't follow that ad anyway.
so CDM Alp, if you want, are great nicotine pouches at Alp. So I have been doing a lot of interviews here. This is the first one we're going to release. It hasn't been shown anywhere else. Dr. Naji Hayek is the #2 at the Free Patriotic Movement in Lebanon. It's the largest Christian party. And he is a highly trained individual, highly intelligent, has spent some time in the U.S., but the Christians are being attacked. He's been involved in all of it. He was in the militia against the Palestinians back in the 70s during the Civil War, and is a very, very knowledgeable man about what's happening in this area. So we'll play this interview. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you learn something. I was honored to spend some time with Dr. Naji Hayek. He is a trained surgeon in the United States. He's also the second in command, the Vice President for International Affairs of the Free Patriotic Movement, which is the largest Christian party in Lebanon. And thank you for joining me, Doc. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for hosting me. God bless you.
Yes, I'm at the convent, and you're downtown Beirut. Could you? I've done a lot of reporting on the history of the Christian movement and what's happened here, but maybe you could give an overview of where the movement stands, the risks, and the possibilities going forward.
I am going to give you a little briefing about the history of the Christians in Lebanon and a bit in the Middle East. As you probably know, and that this is something also that many people don't know, we are not converted to Christianism. We are the first Christians because Jesus was here. So Jesus was here next to us in Israel. And the first miracle was done in the south of Lebanon. So the Christian community of Lebanon is one of the first Christian communities ever because of the proximity. The Christian community in Syria also is an old, very old Christian community, and it goes back to the year 30 or 40. The first place where the Christians were named Christians or followers of Jesus was in actual Turkey, and in the south of Turkey, in Antioch. This area was part of Syria, so the whole area was Christians up until the advent of Islam, and when the Islamic Caliphate started conquering this area, the people started converting from Christianity to Islam. Christianity was able to convert many of the pagans in the whole area to Christianity, and many of them stayed pagan, very few actually. But then Islam came and they started converting by the means that they used. And this is what it is. So the actual country of Lebanon had been mostly Christian in the 100 years ago, with the foundation of the Greater Lebanon. The Greater Lebanon And the smaller Lebanon that was there before the Greater Lebanon was mostly 80% Christians. But for the past 100 years, we were subject to many military activities and other also activities that diminished, made our numbers less. So wars plus the amount of the numbers of Christians started going down because the Christian family is usually smaller than a non-Christian family, especially in the past 40 or 50 years. So I have 2 kids. Islamic families have 7 or 8 kids or 4 or 5 kids. So numbers are at least double. So look at this over many generations. That makes the number go down. And this is the rule of life. I mean, this is not an accusation. This is the reality of what's happening. And also, mainly in 1975, we had a big war that was launched against the Christian presence in Lebanon because the Christians were holding most of the powers. And according to the Lebanese constitution, if you want to call it this way, the Lebanese president has to be Christian. And it has to be Maronite. Actually, it's a Catholic sect of Christianity. So there was a war that was launched by the Palestinians to take over Lebanon. The Christians defended themselves, and the army that was largely Christian, and the Christian parties had to arm. So we formed Christian militias that fought the Palestinians and fought then after that the Syrians. And there was also a big agglomeration of ISIS, kind of an ISIS of the 70s that were revolving around the Palestinian Fatah movement and led by Arafat. So they came here to battle the infidel. We were able to hold our ground quite steadily. Many of them left, many of us left, obviously, because the Christians, many of us have families in the US, have families in Europe, so it's easy for them to go, and they blend much easier. So they left and never came back. Many of us died in battle, and I lost many of my childhood friends in battle, and the rest of us is here right now. So the problem that we are facing, and I have to say it this way, is that the Western governments and even the Western communities have lost much of their Christian values. And because of that, the Christians of the Middle East have been left to their fate, and they have been left to kind of die slowly and alone here. You have to remember that in 1990, in the middle of the war that we were having against the Syrian occupation of Lebanon, the American government sponsored the invasion of the Christian area by Hafiz Assad, the father of actual Bashar al-Assad, and they let him rule Lebanon, and they let him crush all the Christian presence in Lebanon by military force, and unfortunately, with the blessing of the United States and Europe. So
that was done during the first Gulf War. Am I correct? It was kind of like a quid pro quo. You join us in the war, we'll let you destroy Christianity in Lebanon. Is that
absolutely? And this is what happened. Hafiz Assad joined the war against Iraq, against Saddam Hussein. Who needed Hafiz Assad to win the war against Saddam Hussein? The U.S. did it alone without getting any help from anybody. But they wanted his assistance, despite what he had done, despite him blowing up the Marines headquarters in Lebanon. So they let him crush us. And between 1990 and 2005, our powers in Lebanon started fading away because Syria was occupying Lebanon and was stripping the Christians out of their powers. And with the whole world observing this, this is when I had to leave and go to the US to finish my medical and surgical training. I remember when I had to come back to Lebanon, we were not allowed to write Beirut on the plane ticket. It had to say Damascus. Imagine this. I used to scratch it, write Beirut on it, and at that time it was a paper. The tickets were paper tickets, so I used to get into arguments with the agents on the airports at JFK or at Newark because they were angry because I was tampering the ticket. I said I'm flying to Beirut, and the ticket, the flight number is going to Beirut. Why are you writing Damascus? Especially that I was one of these soldiers, army soldiers, and militiamen that battled the Syrians and the Palestinians occupying Lebanon. So this is what happened. And it was not without a hard fight and battle inside the U.S. Congress that we were able to pass a law with the help of the Lebanese Christian community in the U.S. We had a law that was passed called the Syria Accountability and Lebanese Sovereignty Restoration Act that was passed in the U.S. government, in the U.S. Congress, that obliged the Syrians to get out of Lebanon. This law was mainly orchestrated by the former president, General Michel Aoun, and with the assistance of the Lebanese inside the United States. One of them was my uncle, the late Dr. Eli Sadie of Youngstown, Ohio, who was born in the U.S. and who helped us do that. And he's the one that testified in the U.S. Congress for that. And this is how the Syrians withdrew from Lebanon. It went through the Lebanese lobby. And now, what's happening right now is what, with the fall of Assad, we have to admit, despite the brutality of the regime, this regime was quite lenient toward the Christians of Syria. And but now the actual regime in Syria is like pushing the Christians to leave the Syria. Now,
so just let me state, Assad was, you say lenient to the Christians. You could have your own lifestyle. You could go to church. You could build businesses under Assad, correct?
Absolutely. You were not allowed to get involved in politics, but at the same time, there was freedom of religion, and I'm in no way trying to say that Assad was a great person. I was one of the people that battled him and fought him all my childhood and my young adult life. But this is the reality of things. So now the new regime in Syria is dangerous. I hope they'll be able to minimize their effect on the region. But in Lebanon, we still have a good Christian presence. The president and the commander-in-chief of the army and the head of the central bank, which is like the Federal Reserve in the U.S., they're still Christians, but they're stripped of some of their powers. And we're having this problem of the Hezbollah being armed and weaponized. So now with the war in the south of Lebanon, Hezbollah has been quite severely damaged, and we're trying to get rid of the arms of the Hezbollah. In the old days, before this war, we at our party had to deal with Hezbollah, and because we belong to the same country, and we were, as Christians, quite weak enough not to be able to fight or argue with what they're doing, and with them having weapons and being affiliated with Iran. But this has changed right now. But
so let me ask you, how did the Shia presence come into Lebanon?
The Shia presence came into Lebanon in around the year 700, right after the fall of the Shiite Khalifa in Iraq. So they came, many of them came to Lebanon, and they started living in the south of Lebanon. And they even came to the actual Christian areas of Lebanon. But the Christians were obviously before that, because the Christians in Lebanon have been here since the year 300. And many before that, again, because when the Christianity started growing, it started in Lebanon, in Syria, and in southern Turkey. And this is a reality. So we've been here much longer than that. Our church, the Maronite Church, which is a part of the Catholic Church, is the biggest Christian sect in Lebanon. And this Maronite sect is mainly based in Lebanon. it was started by a monk that lived in Aleppo in northern Syria in the year 400. But then the patriarchate, which is like the papacy of the Christians, our church formed in Mount Lebanon here in the area between Byblos, Jbeil, actual Jbeil, and Batron. This is where I am right now. It was formed in the year 680. So right by the time that the Shia and the Sunnis were fighting in Iraq. But they started coming as refugees here in the beginning, and the Shiite community started growing up. So it's the Shia have been here for a very long time. And the Sunnis started also growing in influence after the Abbasides in the year, before the Abbasids, the Umayyads in the year 700 and 800 and 800, 900, 1000, they started coming, the Abbasides came and they started attacking the shores of Lebanon and the mountains of Lebanon. In the year 700, the Maronites were fighting against the Umayyads. They were led by Muawiyah. There was the Umayyad Khalifa who formed the Umayyad dynasty, or what do you call it, Caliphate. So, and then sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. We had some good periods here in the year 1100, 1200, 1300 because the Crusaders were here. But after they left, we got slaughtered. Same thing happened to us in 1983, 84 when the Marines came to Lebanon. They left 1 year or 2 years later after the bombing of the Marines headquarters. So the people that orchestrated this bombing were the Palestinians, the Syrians, and the Iranians. So when the U.S. government decided to pull out the Marines, and we were left alone. So we were attacked by all fronts because they accused us of being allied with the Americans or being pro-American. And this is a reality because most of the Lebanese people here are very pro-Americans, and we have 1.5 million Lebanese Americans in the U.S. At least 3/4 of them are Christians, and I have a big part of my family and of my village. Actually, my village is maybe 2,000 people with maybe 300 homes, and we have the same number in Youngstown, Ohio. Imagine. So these people that are in Youngstown, Ohio, were born and raised in the U.S. They'll be Lebanese just like you'd be Scottish. So so this is what it is. This is why we are pro-American. Obviously, this is a reality. I myself am very pro-American. I was trained and lived in the U.S. and I owe America my medical training. I owe America my education, and America is my second country. And there is that comes before America in the whole world.
So the bombing of the Marine barracks was targeted to try to remove American troops, really removing protection for you. Is that correct?
Exactly. And they succeeded because the Americans, instead of fighting back, decided to withdraw. And this was a big mistake. And imagine in 1990, after that, they sold us to these same people that bombed the Marines and they killed these Marines. And in 1998, we dedicated one of our cedar forests that was dedicated to the memory of the Christian soldiers fell during the war. We dedicated this forest to the memory of the Marines and to the French paratroopers that were killed by a coward act on October 23rd, 1983. And for that, one of the parents of the Marines that they were killed here that came, her name is Judith Young, with her husband. She came here in 1998, and she is the one that laid the stone for the memory of the Marines. And I think I was there. I think you remember this. You went to this cedar forest, and
yes, I do. That article is on our military site. I'm just so people can bring that up and see that.
Absolutely.
On our armed
and
forces
after that,
site.
in 2003, the lady Judith Young, she had organized a big candle lighting in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and I officially went to Camp Lejeune, sent by then exiled general who became president after that, Michel Aoun. He went to, I went officially, I represented him in Camp Lejeune at the barracks, and I spent the night praying with the families of the fallen heroes. For the 40th anniversary, Judith Young had become the president of the Gold Star Mothers of America. The Gold Star Mothers, for the people that are not familiar with it, are the mothers of the fallen military of the U.S. Of the United States of America. So for maybe 10 years, she was the president of this association that is quite a prestigious organization. She came in October of 2023, and she came, and I organized her trip. She came with one of the Marines that they were here also with her. She came, and we organized a trip to the mountain where I sent you the photos, to the mountain, yes. And she saw the stone and the flower that she had given us in 1998. So we were supposed to have a big rally for that and a big thing, but because of the events that happened in Gaza, right? I mean, a couple of weeks before the 23rd of October, we're not able to do that. But the people that are hearing me here and the U.S. People should know that since I came back and started organizing this since 1999, I was personally, and my political party were organizing prayers and masses every year for the fallen Marines, every year. And I sent you old photos.
Yes, I saw those. Yeah.
Even during the Syrian occupation, we used to do that. Every year there is a mass for the memory of the fallen Marines in Lebanon. We did all this. So we deserve that the U.S. government has a good eye on us and trying to help us and trying to make sure that we don't get flushed out of our homeland and out of the first Christian homeland in the whole world, and the only country in the Middle East where the Christians still have powers, and the only country in the Middle East where the president is Christian. So this is extremely important. And in this year in February, I was at the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, and President Trump addressed me personally in the crowd when he was talking about helping the Christians and having an office in the White House to combat anti-Christian movements. And he told me, "You seem very happy." And I told him I'm very happy, and I count on him to restore peace to the Middle East and to help the Christians of Lebanon. And
so
he told me that he was going to do that, and I count on him for that.
What you have?
I sent you the video.
Yeah, I would love to see it. So, well, I did see it, but I'd love to have it and play it on after this show. There's more threats from Syria now. Possibly, you have 2 million Syrian refugees in country, and you have possible threats from the Sunni jihadi government in Syria. Has there been a response from the Trump administration, like, we understand what's going on, or because you have Trump and then you have the State Department? They're two different things. So,
Absolutely.
you know, sometimes the lower level employees don't really think like President Trump. Are you seeing any results from the Trump administration?
We haven't seen much of that, but we're giving it time because they're still going back and forth concerning the weapons of the Hezbollah. And I think this is crucial, being able to put guns and weapons solely in the hand of the official, of the Lebanese army is very important. And I think President Trump is assisting on this matter. Now, when it comes to the danger coming from the north and from the east with the jihadi government in Syria, we hear some threats, but I'm not sure they are quite credible at this point. But nobody knows, because Shara, the actual president of Syria, does not really control all the territory, and we've seen what they did to the Alawis in Western Syria, and we've seen what they tried to do to the Druze in Suwaida in Syria. So who knows? They might think of attacking either the Shia or the Christian community here. So this is where a U.S. Intervention comes handy. But we're trying. We talk to the people in the U.S. I personally go talk to the State Department, and as you said, the problem that we've been facing for all these years is there are sometimes you have a 30 years old government employee that decides that the Christians in Lebanon are a negligible entity and should not be dealt with as an important faction of Lebanon, and this is what you get. And we get people get killed, get slaughtered, and our presence starts getting diminished. So I wish we could do something more. And I mean, I thank you very much for giving me the chance of exposing these facts and of telling the U.S., the American people, that we are their allies and we are their friends and we share common values. Not only Christian values, but even the non-Christian population in Lebanon is quite friendly to the American people and to the values of that America represents.
Right. I was going to ask you something, but I forgot. What else do you want to get out to the
problem? The problem that we face is that the political games sometimes can get our people killed in Lebanon, and I beg the American people, and I hereby push and ask the priests and in churches to do everything they can to push their representative and the government to give special assistance to the Christians of Lebanon and to Lebanon, because Lebanon is a democracy in the Middle East, and it was always the Switzerland, the Middle East, the Miami of the Middle East. Even now, if you come, I mean, you're here in Lebanon. Go to the beaches, check the nightlife.
It's very nice.
We live a very open life. Lebanon is not a Kandahar. Christians and Muslims in Lebanon live the same way that the people would live in Washington or in Miami or anywhere else. So
I know what I was going to ask you.
We can be a major representative of the free world in this Middle East. This is one, and because we as Christians, because we know the West, we know the East, we can be the mediators between the Western values and the Middle Eastern values, and between the Christian values and between the Islamic values, that can find a good territory where they can really live peacefully and with love, like Lord Jesus Christ taught us.
Amen. So I know what I was going to ask you. There was a lot of Christians killed in southern Syria, correct? After Golani took power?
Yes, there were many Christians killed, but we don't have much info because the government there tries to limit what leaks out. But obviously with internet, a lot leaks out. But the people that have been killed in Syria are mostly Alawis and Druze, and less Christians. But Syria had 2 or 3 million Christians, and many of them left because the people like in Australia and the Australian government, the Canadian government, they like to get Syrian Christians. So they give them the opportunity to travel, and they travel. Many of them are in Lebanon. We welcome them here. We welcome them here because they feel they're safer in Lebanon.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the Christians in Lebanon still have powers, and big part of the army is Christian. And the command, I mean, the chief of staff of the army is Christian. And not only Christians, but even Shia and Sunnis here, they live in a more peaceful way than everywhere else in the world. I mean, the communities here are are not the way many of the people think they are. I'm talking about the Shia and the Sunnis.
Yes, I understand. Well, thank you for your time. I would love to have you back down the road as things develop and we have more things happening in Lebanon.
Thank you very much.
I think there's going to be more developments, but I appreciate your time coming on today, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
So, Bill, one of the things I want to point out there is that he said, which I didn't realize, and I'm learning and I'm going to write about this in research, is that George H.W. Bush, Daddy Bush, during the Gulf War, the deal he made with the Assad regime was that you could have your way with the Syrian Christians as long as you support me in the war against Saddam Hussein. He didn't need that support, but Bush did that. And the Christians, it was a deliberate, I think, attack on a major Christian country that nobody really understood what was happening at the time. And it began the weakening of Christianity in Lebanon and the power that they had. And they were, a lot of them were killed. It started the whole, it was not a good thing. And I think that was intentional. I think we're learning more about the Bush family and what they've been doing over, and that war started the forever wars, right? I mean, I remember being in the military thinking, wow, it's been a long time since we had a war. Thinking, that maybe I won't have one in my lifetime, but that wasn't real. So anyway, it's just a point I wanted to bring out, but back to you.
That's a very good point. I was fascinated by his comments giving the historical background of Lebanon, going back all the way to the time of Christ, and the fact that so many of the events that we have learned of now occurred there in Syria and as well, obviously, in Israel. So really, a really fascinating area of the world, and one that I don't think the American public knows very well, especially the fact that the people there identify so strongly with our Christian values, but also our American values, sounds like.
Well, I went to a Christian a mass, a Maronite mass this morning. I'll just bring this up if I can. But it was packed. It was just amazing. I mean, it was like you don't see this in the U.S., especially. Well, I can't bring it up because I have to convert the image, but it was packed. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. It was in French. I've never been to a French service before, but it was beautiful. Anyway, that's all I got, Bill.
All right, me too. We'll have more throughout the week. Again, watch the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com, for information on this emergency hearing that's going on with regard to Fulton County and their struggles to get the right people onto their election board. And we'll have more during this week. Thank you very much.
Let me say one more thing. Mm-hmm. I'll be on the skiff tomorrow at 10 to noon. And as always, Monday through Friday, Eastern. We'll be leaving Lebanon probably on Tuesday. But we're going to, if you haven't done it, please support us with the no ad subscriptions or make a donation to fund this reporting. It's not cheap, and we would appreciate that. And that's it, Bill. Thanks.
All right. That's great. We'll see you next time. Thanks.